To protect the people associated with this story, I will be using fake names, of course. On Halloween, James, Roy, Jane, and myself decided to go down to Roy's family home down in the countryside. It's an isolated house and there's nothing nearby, the perfect, most safe spot to take psychedelics, so we thought. Within the first hour of the trip, it started hitting hard and we were all having a great time, laughing, sharing what we were seeing, and bonding together. Suddenly, it started to go very bad, very quickly. James asked if he could take off his clothes so he can feel freer. We, of course, consulted Jane and she was okay with it. However, once James's clothes were off, he started to have a conversation with himself. Yes, but I don't know if we should. No, but maybe. Yes. He came into the room and he shouted, "We all want to fuck Jane." At this point, me and Roy started saying, "Mate, of course not. That's not what this is." James started to have the conversation with himself again. No, but maybe. I don't know. Yes, I want to fuck Jane. I decided to take him into a different room to try and talk him out of what he was saying. "You're making her feel really uncomfortable. We need to make Jane feel as comfortable as possible, so please get it in your head that no one here is having sex with anyone." Nothing was getting through. He just kept having this conversation with himself. More sayings and phrases were being added to the loop. He started shouting, "I'm in love with Jane. I want to fuck Jane. Yes, but I don't know if we should. No, but maybe. Yes. As of right now, I can't tell if I'm in love with Jane or not." Obviously, Jane started getting really freaked out, as were myself and Roy. We had no idea what was going on, but he kept making sudden movements towards Jane. He tried to run at her, so I slapped him to try to get him out of this trance and held him down. He bit his tongue as I slapped him, so blood started covering his teeth, which was as freaky as it gets. This constant loop was happening for 6 hours with James trying to get to Jane. We barricaded ourselves away from this monster that's taken over our friend. We called people trying to get help in the panic state we were in, but we were so far in the middle of nowhere, we couldn't get help. We had to keep an eye on him, so we couldn't lock him in a room unsupervised. After a few hours, he started to settle physically, but still stuck in this loop within himself. He still tried to make advances to Jane, but myself or Roy got in the way before he reached her. Jane and Roy decided to go to bed so we can get out of this horror house as early as we could the next day. I stayed with James. At this point in the middle of the night, he was on the couch not moving, so I continued to watch Naruto. Highly recommend on any psychedelic. At some stage, he woke up and he stared at me. The only light was coming from the TV, so it was dark and scary. His face was full of distress. He looked at me as if I was a hostile figure. He stood up and walked over to me, hands clenched, staring at me with eyes I can only describe as full of bloodlust, pure hatred. He then turns around and grabs a tool off the fireplace and looks at me. At this moment, I was terrified for my life. I thought James was going to attack with this tool. He puts it down and goes into the kitchen, where there are a lot more lethal weapons. I use this opportunity to get out of this room and find Roy. Roy came down and we found James on the couch. Roy touched James on his chest, which seemed to help him calm down. After another 25 minutes, James comes back around. He asked for the date 7 times in 2 minutes. We thought his brain had turned to mush. He eventually came completely back to us. Roy and I decided to talk through it the next day. The next day, we sat down to describe what happened. However, James was talking as though he was the victim in a horrific trip inside his own head. He talked to Jane alone, and Jane told me he said, "If you just let me touch you more, it wouldn't have happened," which is, to me, much more disturbing than the whole night itself. He blamed Jane for his psychotic episode because she didn't consent to him touching her. He described what he went through, which sounded like a horrific, traumatizing experience. The thing is though, we didn't take all the stamps we had. After he told us details of his terrifying trip, he asked if he could have some of the stamp left to take home. If his trip was as bad as he said it was, there's no way he would want to take them again. I obviously refused and said there is no way I was giving him the drug that made him act that way the night before. He got angry and annoyed, so I threw them down the toilet. James, Roy, Jane, and myself have known each other for 15 plus years. James is and has been one of my closest friends for the entirety of my life. I am worried he has a genuine problem. He doesn't know the extent of his actions. He has traumatized all of us, particularly Jane, who has had a history of abusive relationships. But also myself. I've had nightmares and flashbacks every day since, and I feel completely unhinged. I want to help James. I don't think our friendship could continue if he doesn't realize what he has done. I know it's a long read. I appreciate you making it this far. Could anyone please help me or give me advice on how to tackle such a situation? I'm gonna read a couple comments that give advice on what to do in this situation. I'm going out on a limb that James has some mental problems or repressed thoughts he needs to discuss with a licensed professional. I understand the looping thoughts and the creepy stare from a friend holding a knife that trips you the fuck out, let alone with the context you gave. But that homie wanted to sexually assault someone, which LSD doesn't make you do. On top of it, he is childish enough to blame the victim, take no accountability, and ask for more. Y'all need to have a real heart-to-heart with that homie and hold him accountable. If I was Jane, I would never go near that bro again. James definitely was stuck in a very rough thought loop and had some fucked up repressed thoughts come up. None of his behavior was okay, which I'm sure you know. He needs to stay away from LSD. He needs to stay the fuck away from both LSD and Jane. I would cut out James unless he got help immediately and warn others about him if he doesn't get help on his own. I'd only keep in touch with someone that immediately seeks help after something like this. That night could have gone a lot worse, and I never feel at ease amongst someone that doesn't think they did anything wrong when being told what happened sober. James needs to go to therapy. James needs to recognize what he did and sincerely apologize to all of you, Jane in particular. If he doesn't agree to do these things, then you really shouldn't continue the friendship. Speaking as a woman, if I were Jane, I wouldn't want to hang out with him ever again, but an apology letter or something like that would help me feel less crazy. Fuck him, even if he agrees to therapy and apologies. He literally tried to rape her in front of them. I would get a fucking restraining order if I experienced something like this. I say this as someone who has been raped and didn't take legal action before. Alright, my personal opinion on this is that if James was my friend, I probably would never see him again. That's just too much to overcome. Especially if I was on acid myself, watching this happen, I'd be more traumatized. And I don't know how Jane could ever go near him again. I know I never would. Yeah, just watching it would be fucking crazy, but just being the victim in it, the real victim, not James who says he is a victim, the real victim Jane, and just be too tough. That is really hard to get over, and I don't think anyone would ever forget about that. If you guys were to hang out, you would just know in the back of your minds what the fuck happened and how James had no remorse for his actions and didn't think he did anything wrong. That would just sit with me really bad in my stomach. I wouldn't be able to handle it. That's just my opinion though. Leave your opinions in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Probably most of you guys agree, but you know, maybe there's some steps people can take to get better. That's probably the best thing he can do. Even if he does get better, I still probably wouldn't talk to him. That's just too much. Like I said, that's just way too much to handle. Just knowing that he tried to rape a girl that you guys been friends with for that long too, like, that's just crazy. It just makes you think about what his real intentions were before the acid and, you know, what he's really thinking of Jane and all of his friends. So yeah, that's just fucked up. I thought I'd share that story because it really is fucked up, and it's a good conversation starter, I guess, to see how people would react in this situation if you were in it. How would you react? Like I said, put in the comments below and let me know. All right, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and hope I didn't traumatize you too much. Like that trip, very traumatizing trip. Would not want to be any of those people. All right, I'll see you guys next time.